Hello and welcome to Four Wheels Good, the programme that cruises down the fast lane of the motoring highway 52 weeks a year. This week we have a British Motor Show special. Our reporters Ginny, Buckley and Mike Rutherford will be giving us all the latest news and views from Britain's premier car event, the NEC Motor Show in Birmingham. Also tonight, Stirling Moss salutes Damon Hill, and we feature the Renault Megane family, the all-new TVR sports car, and the unveiling of the very mean Chrysler Plymouth Prowler.
So Birmingham isn't as glamorous as Geneva, Paris or Japan, but it's still the main motoring event on the British calendar. The 1996 International Motor Show is on now at the NEC in good old Birmingham. It'll give the manufacturers a chance to unveil their latest creations. Nah, better not. Over the next few days, from the 18th to the 27th of October, thousands of people will pass through these doors to join in a huge party and take a look at the very best the motor industry has to offer. You ready? Let's go see what all the fuss is about. This year is a special one for the Motor Show, as it's celebrating 100 years of British motoring manufacturing. It features many famous names from a century of motoring, as well as some glimpses of what we can expect from the future. There's over 220 exhibitors at this year's show, and the job of organising this logistical nightmare falls to the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders.
It takes about 2 years to organise a show like this, and we have an extensive amount of planning to do, and we work very hard with an excellent team of people, not only the in-house exhibitions people but the supporting agencies who look after the marketing and the promotion of the show.
Now it seems to me we've only just got over Paris. People have just recovered from their hangovers and all those press people have just gone back to work. Why are the two so close together?
Well, ours has always been in October, and the Paris show used to take place in the first 2 weeks of September, but Paris has moved their show closer to ours. So what we really have is a seamless, almost seamless 4 weeks of shows. So although many of the new models are premiered into the world and in Europe at Paris, they quickly arrive here as a continuation of the Paris show, if you like. So we're working very closely in partnership. That's rather than rival shows.
I was going to say, it's a very nice way of saying you're not rivals.
No, we're
polite.
We're not rivals, and our show is slightly different. We're looking on the rather more of the entertainment side. Manufacturers want to reach out to their customers, not necessarily to journalists who are looking for the latest model. The manufacturers want to present their model range in as enticing a way as possible, and this show does that.
Do you view this as an event for the manufacturers to show off what they've been up to, show off their best models, or is it a family event? Do you want to get families here?
Oh yes, we want to get families here. We want to get the people who are going to buy cars here. So that's why all the manufacturers have got some form of entertainment on their stands, some rather more modest than others, but some, well, almost out of this world. Acrobats, dancing girls, and men, I might add, as well.
Oh, great. Well, this is something here for me. But you say it's important to you that it's a family event. Family of four coming here, it's 30 quid before they even get in the car and drive here and spend all their money on food. Now, tickets have gone up 300% in the last 10 years. It's a lot. Can you justify it?
Well, we have to, because the cost of renting the NEC has gone up by quite a considerable amount, and the cost of promoting a show like this is equally as expensive. But I think you have to look at it in the context of what it would cost to go to the cinema, what it would cost to go to one of the theme parks. And I think you'll see that actually when you look at it pound for pound, yes, we're offering just as much entertainment, just as much excitement, just as much opportunity as any other form of entertainment.
I'm very grateful to the SMMT and to Coventry University for the opportunity of opening Concept 2096. In 100 years' time, everything else you see before you will be on the London to Brighton with the then Lord Montague of Bewley. What is behind me will be on the London to Brighton in 200 years' time.
So this is it, you've seen it here first. Concept 2096, the ultimate car of the future. Now it's got no wheels, it relies on a revolutionary slug drive, which hasn't been invented yet, but we won't talk about that. It's got no steering wheel, so you won't even have to drive the thing. Now don't get me wrong, but I thought that wheels and driving and steering is really what a car's all about. And you know, the other thing is, I don't know if I fancy parking a slug on the drive.
Submitted one idea that I had, so that is that the airbag should not be a regular airbag, it should be an inflatable sex doll. And then if you do have an accident, you'll have something to play with while you're waiting for the ambulance.
motor that suffers from overload of the words new, original and exciting, the Megane Scenic, the latest addition to the Megane family from Renault, is a bit of a wondrous thing, because it actually is new. It's an exciting concept and it's original, both in terms of design, because of the fact that there's nothing quite like it on the market, yet.
I think that the market is changing dramatically right now. And the days are over of cars where you are hoping to make 3,000 a day and sell 3,000 a day. It's a market which is a market of offer rather than demand, and so therefore you really have to understand your customer. And clearly with the Scenic we have a vehicle which is so different to anything which has been built so far. There's been a craze for MPVs, of course, but they are a little bit too expensive for the average family. And with the Scenic we're offering a new type of car for European families, and I think it's going to go really well.
Are you hoping to open the market up much in the same way as the hatchback did for the 60s?
Absolutely. If I look at the way that the response has been in the first days of sale, we've had more than 7,000 orders, and I think 1,000 of those were before the prices were known. So I think that we are clearly going to open up a new era, and the enthusiasm that we had at the last Paris Motor Show we have never lived anything like that before.
It's quite an exciting time for you.
It is. It is.
The car market is very crowded. Are you confident enough that the niche is there for the Scenic?
Well, I don't think it's a niche. I really think that the future of the automobile is oriented towards the Scenic type of vehicle, and that the ordinary five-door hatch will eventually become a niche segment. I think the industry is going towards this type of vehicle.
What else can we expect to see from the Megane family? Because this is the third one sort of out of the stable now, isn't it? So how far are you going to go?
Okay, well, we'll definitely have a convertible, a roadster type convertible, which is coming out next year. And then one more definite vehicle will be a station wagon, which will appeal to in certain parts of the world, probably more so in certain countries. For example, Italy, it's a country where the in-car is a station wagon, and other countries around South America and other places.
What's the thinking behind this kind of school of collective design?
Well, the idea is quite simple. Basically, the market is breaking up into this sort of focus, customer focusing, and so we try to really identify the different type of customers. We try to make cars which are affordable, namely we share a lot of components. Between a five-door Megane and a Scenic, there are still 40% of components which are common, which means that we can build all these different type of vehicles at a very economic, for us, reasonable prices, and therefore offer them at a reasonable price.
It's the IKEA concept, isn't it? Everything sort of under the one roof, really.
Absolutely. And the other thing, of course, why we kept the name and why we keep a certain family identity is to get the presence on the market. It's very, it's very, very expensive to get a name known within Europe. It costs a lot of money. If on each vehicle we had found a new name, it would have been a horrendously expensive experience. So this is the way that we've done it, with a minimum cost, designing a complete family of cars which appeals to a very, very wide range of people.
Well, I'm going to stick my neck out a bit here and say that this car we're sitting in is my car of the show, which is the Renault Scenic. It's based on a hatchback, the Megane hatchback, which is quite familiar now, but it has the extra space of a mini MPV. Has 5 seats, drives like a car, and it only costs about £1,000 more than a regular hatch. It's full of so many good ideas. It's got cubby holes under the floor. It's got the extra 3-point seatbelt in the middle of the back of the seat, which is unusual for an MPV. The whole thing feels like a kind of modern lifestyle vehicle. They say that 20% of their Espace sales are the 5-seat only vehicle, so they think that a lot of people like the extra versatility of an MPV but don't necessarily need the extra 2 seats for the 7-seat option. So I think they probably hit the nail on the head, and a lot of manufacturers are following suit. We know that Ford are working on a similar vehicle on their new Escort platform, Fiat are working on one, VW for the new Golf platform. So just as the Espace took the world by storm about 10 years ago, I think this may do the same thing.
Well, I've got to tell you, the nicest couple in the world just happened to be at the motor show, and they paid to get in. And of course, that is Mr. and Mrs. Stirling Moss. Susie, lovely to see you here as well.
Yeah, we did pay a lot actually, because you got to add the travel all the way. It was much easier in London.
Now, come on, so did you drive here? This is a great question. You use public transport quite a lot, don't you?
Absolutely. I use British Rail, and which gave us a bit of time. We could sit together and read the papers and all that sort of stuff. No?
And what happens when you get here? What do you think of the show? Is it appropriate in 1996 we have a show like this? Do you think it's a good deal for the punters? It's £9 to get in on the public day.
It's a lot of money, but there's a lot to see. Now, I must say that they do it so well. I think the style here and the size of the stands and the cars you can see, providing they don't lock them. Today I found it rather frustrating. Anything you want to get in that's tasty, they've locked it. You know, the Ferrari, the odd thing that everybody wants, you know.
A bit like the girls here, you can look but you can't touch.
Depends. That's why I have my wife. I don't like to cheat behind her back, you understand.
Suze, I forgot you were here. Susie Moss, what do you think of the show? You've had a good look around as well. I mean, what are your impressions?
I think this show's beautifully done this year. It's interesting, perhaps not that much new, but all beautifully presented, and it would be nice for families if you can afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your particular favourites? I mean, you've been looking around. Sterling, maybe that's the best to put this question to you. You've been looking, you were particularly impressed with the Jag, I think, and something else from Ford.
I thought the car was a very interesting car, I must say.
The car being the Ford KA.
The car, KA, exactly. I think they're so brave to have brought out something so revolutionary, so cute and weird.
Yeah.
You know, I like the SLK, I think it's beautiful. The Mercedes, you know, the way the top go. The Boxster I'm waiting to go and see. I think that must be good.
The Porsche Boxster.
Yeah, the Porsche Boxster. The Ferrari I thought was rather nice. Not really probably quite in my league. It's a rather...
What do you mean not in your league?
Well, I think, you know, if you're in a Ferrari, that's what people expect. I'm rather more sedate nowadays, actually. I enjoyed the car because it was small and cute, you know.
You're an absolute liar, I've got to say. I mean, I've been in a car with you, Stirling Moss. I know what you're like.
But you see, if you have a little car, you've got to work hard to get anything out of it. That's more rewarding than having a fantastic car like the Ferrari.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember going around a test track with you once, and you were ignoring all the muscle cars, and you went in a fairly low-powered car because on skinny tyres, small engine, it's working. You know, you're doing 10/10ths, as it were. Much more fun than a real car.
One interesting thing here, which people probably won't understand, is the cornering force they get now with these great big tyres. On that Caterham, they are getting a cornering force about 50% more than the racing cars I drove. I mean, it's staggering, really.
Absolutely. And it comes back to this point that we raised earlier. Cars are not cheap. You need an awful lot of money to buy even a modest motor car. But it seems to me that in value for money terms, you're getting an awful lot these days for your pound.
Yeah, I agree. I think that most cars today are good value. Some are a bit over the top because they've got too much special stuff, but most of them are really well priced, I think.
Now, talking of interesting and wacky little cars, Suze, come on, tell us about that little car that you've got parked in the garage of the Moss Mansion, which is your very own car.
Oh, that's the most adorable little BMW 600 with a front opening door. It is a front opening door, isn't
Absolutely.
it? But, and it's 1956, Sterling?
Yeah, 56. Yeah.
So it's really quite old, but it goes terribly well, and even taxi drivers will give way to you in it because it's so adorable.
But the great thing about it is, love it or hate it, it's distinctive, and it seems to me, slowly but surely, that's what's happening. Design is coming back into it. We're seeing curves again in new cars. The Euro boxes, thankfully, are going.
Like the little car. I mean, the little car is so different, but it's adorable. I mean, and it's very functional. It's different. It's like the Mini was different. It's the Mini of its time, I think. Very different.
I mean, it seems to me that the car manufacturers have got to be brave, and they've got to do that sort of thing, haven't they?
Yeah, but I would never have thought that Ford would do it. To me, Ford have always been a good cars, best value and all that sort of, but to bring out something with so many curves and so different was remarkable, but very clever ergonomically. I mean, there are places and spaces for everything. Very clever.
Great dashboard, great interior as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrific.
Okay, so your message to the people, Sterling, out there thinking of coming to the motor show, not quite sure whether they can afford the £9 and all the costs that go with it. Let's not forget that there's an awful lot more cost involved. It's £5 to park here. It's not cheap to eat or drink here. No. Yes or no, is it worth the visit?
Yes, I guess it is, but yes, no, I think it is, because you get a lot for your money, yeah.
Susie?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, providing your family is interested in cars and shows, yes, it's worth the money.
And the final word, we can't let you go without saying a word or two about our friend Damon. He won in style, I think, in Suzuka.
Tremendous. I felt that Damon, I was afraid he was going to sit back and say, well, I only need 1 point, let's go for it. But I reckon, first of all, he had a fantastic start, the best start we've seen. And I reckon he suddenly thought, my God, the best way away from these guys is to put my foot down. And he did. And he drove a terrific race. And the one thing that went, I think that was the most amazing thing, is how Berger and he didn't hit. Or if they did hit, it didn't matter. But that could have been very saucy on the third lap. But no, I must say, I'm very pleased because Damon is now after, I mean, let's face it, Schumacher is probably still the best driver. But I always thought that Damon was probably second, and I think he proved it. I really think he showed he was the best after Schumacher.
Now, I've got to say, Stirling, with the greatest respect, you do know your Formula One, but you don't know it like she does. The missus knows more about Formula One than you. So I'm not going to ask you to predict the 1997 World Champion. I'm going to ask Mrs. Susie Moss to predict, right on the spot, Suze.
On the spot?
Who's going to win the 1997 World Championship? Because you are an aficionado, you are an expert, and we're relying on you. Who should people put their money on for next year? Because you're usually right.
Villeneuve.
Well, that's Susie's view, but what do you think? Only time and many laps will tell. After the break, more from the British Motor Show, including Chrysler's offering for 97. Welcome back to Four Wheels Good. As we all know, the Motor Show has everything for the family, as well as the glitz, glamour and gorgeous girls. But this year saw an unusual unveiling of a Mitsubishi which stunned us all. Not only is it a car, but an aircraft as well.
This must be one of the most unusual unveilings I'm going to see today, on a day packed full of unveilings. What's it all about?
Well, actually, we came up with this idea to demonstrate the Shogun's versatility. So this is the smallest aerobatic aircraft in the world. It flies 160 miles an hour. It's got two 15-horsepower engines. And we're going to take it to about 35 air shows around the country in '97. The Shogun would accelerate down the runway, and at 60 miles an hour the aircraft takes off from the roof of the Shogun.
So when are we going to see it in action?
Well, we're going to have a photo call and everything organised after the motor show's out the way, and we can get the plane back. So mid-November we'll be having a day to actually demonstrate it.
What kind of market are you going for with this? Is it for these busy people that get stuck in traffic jams on the M25?
Well, we think there's a great market for hot pursuit vehicles. You know, the police maybe, they get, you know, they're in hot pursuit, the car gets stuck in the traffic jam, they take off and chase and everything. No, it's just a fun promotion, really.
So Colin, are we going to see you in it?
Well, I have got a pilot's licence, but I haven't had a go in this yet, but you might see me in it, I don't know.
Well, I hope we'll be there. Thanks very much. The Voyager, the world's first and best-selling MPV. Why so late to the UK?
Well, the reason was an engineering reason. Originally, the Voyager had just one sliding side door, and because it was principally a left-hand drive vehicle, it was on the wrong side. So if we brought it into the UK in left-hand drive, people would be climbing out on the wrong side into the traffic, and we didn't want that. So we waited until they made a major revamp of the car, which was a couple of years ago, when they put twin side doors in the vehicle, and we just had to wait a little bit longer for right-hand drive to come along, and now it's here today.
So what's new about it? What's different about the one we've just seen unveiled today?
Well, it's moved on quite a lot from the original 1984 Voyager, which we have on the stand, which, as you say, is the world's first MPV, despite what anyone else says.
They just don't look like the same vehicle.
No, they don't, that's right. Although it's the same principle, which is carrying a total of 7 people in comfort, with luggage room behind the rear row seats, which many of the MPVs which are around today, the pretenders I like to call them, don't have. The Voyager has luggage space behind its rear seats now. There's a long wheelbase version with an extra 13 inches of room behind the seats, and it really is a vehicle in which you can put all 7 people in, put all the luggage in, and you don't have to strap things to the roof as you do with others. So that's a change. There are new engines, a 3.3 litre V6 engine. There's a 2 litre 4-cylinder engine, which is brand new for the Voyager, and ultimately we hope to have a turbo diesel version as well. The look of the car as well, this is something which people have commented on. They say that it is a very good looking vehicle. Looks very much like a car, handles like a car. It's not a converted motored van in the way that some people view MPVs. This is just happens to be a car that carries 7 people and their luggage in comfort.
We see that Chrysler in America have announced a 92% increase in profits. Are we going to see some expansion of Chrysler into the UK and into Europe as a result of this?
Yes, you will. Just recently we had in Brussels, Chrysler opened a new European office, which it had a presence in Germany previously, but this is an office which employs, ultimately, will be about 200 people. And the presence in Europe is growing all the time. Chrysler has just recently taken over the distributor in France and in Italy. So yes, Chrysler does appear to have big plans for Europe and other international markets. In the UK, we as a distributor, we naturally have big plans. We now have Chrysler badged vehicles, which is the Neon and of course the Voyager in the range, and we have lots of others coming along as well. So yes, in terms of expansion, we've expanded massively over the last 4 years. I don't see that coming to an end just at the moment.
Just a quick chat about the Wrangler. We've seen the new one again, another new unveiling this morning. I can't keep up with it all.
Loads of you.
The main difference is of course the headlights. Going back to that old style of the rounded headlights, which I must say makes me happy.
Yes.
What other changes can we see?
Well, it still looks like, we say, an old friend. It is very much like the old Wrangler that you mentioned, which we actually ran out of this year. Yes, the round headlights are probably the most obvious exterior change, but if you look inside, you'll see that what used to be a fairly primitive and, I suppose, practical interior is also now quite stylish. It looks very much more like a car inside. It now has twin airbags as well, which is a useful safety feature, and also under the skin it has coil spring suspension, which is something that it didn't used to have, and some people accused it of being a little bit of a bone shaker, but the coil spring suspension has sorted all that out, and it is now an even better performer off-road because the coil spring suspension allows greater travel of the wheels when going over rough terrain. So it looks pretty similar, but it is changed. And you mentioned the round headlights, of course. We had a situation in the States recently where Jeep enthusiasts who liked the old Wrangler, this is the sort of the really old ones of 10, 15 years ago, when they used to have round headlights, they used to wear t-shirts saying real Jeeps don't have square headlights. So I think we've got a few owners out there who are quite happy to see this change.
So you're doing a bit of a t-shirt run, are you, to give away with the new vehicles?
Well, we couldn't do it because we as a company, I couldn't really agree to that because the Cherokee and the Grand Cherokee also have square headlights, so better not do that.
You're sitting on the fence on this
Absolutely,
one.
yes.
Looking behind us here, we've got the Prowler.
Yep.
It is an amazing vehicle, and it's so wonderful to see it here as well, to see it actually in production. Did you ever think it was going to happen?
Well, when we saw the car, we looked at it and thought never. But one of the words that we've learned to say with Chrysler, or not to say with Chrysler, is never. They have a habit of producing some fairly wild and adventurous concept cars which always seem to make it into production. The Viper was a classic case. Even the Neon was a concept car. The Grand Cherokee was a concept car originally, and all were quite wild and wonderful in their own small way. When we saw Prowler, we thought, I wonder if, and there was so much demand for this car that the company went ahead with it, and it now goes on sale in the USA in January.
Next question, when is it going to be on sale here in the UK?
That's a good question.
Never say never.
No, never say never, yes, that's right. Well, we as a company we're crying out for the vehicle. We would love to see it. We understand that there are some engineering practicalities which get in the way. If you have a look at some of the details on the car, you'll see that things like the bumpers and the lights may struggle to get through some of the European homologation and other regulations. And what Chrysler have said is that they don't want to compromise the design of the car just to get it through regulations to put it on sale in the market. So we may see some work from Chrysler to try and adapt it for other markets, but at the moment I would say that if I were to make a prediction, not just yet, Chrysler will be satisfying what is huge demand in the USA. They have thousands and thousands of orders for this car, and they're quite happy to satisfy that demand first of all, as they did with Viper, and then maybe look at markets like the UK. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed.
Skoda have had a reputation for being a bit of a joke somewhat in the motor industry over the past few years, but it's been changing slowly. What have they been doing to combat this?
Well, the first thing that happened was Volkswagen took them over, which was a big step, and then came the Felicia, which is a thoroughly modern small hatch, and now we've got the Octavia, which is going to come into the country in 1998.
Well, have you had a drive of it yet?
I have indeed, yes.
And what do you think?
Well, it's an excellent car. I mean, it shares lots of Volkswagen and Audi components. While it's not quite as refined as an Audi or a Volkswagen, it's certainly better than Skoda's immediate competitors.
We're looking at the new Passat earlier on today, and I must say that the body shape is very similar.
But again, it's no surprise. I mean, even though it was designed by Skoda's own design team, there are obviously family resemblances with the rest of the Volkswagen group.
So what market are they really trying to go for with this? Are they after the fleet buyers, do you think?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think if private buyers on a budget, more like, I think the natural rivals for this car are more along the lines of Hyundai and Daewoo. It's very well made. It's got, like I said, it's got Volkswagen and Audi engines, so they're obviously some of the best engines you can get, particularly their diesel engines. And it's got a much smoother ride than its rivals. It looks more modern than, say, a Daewoo does, which is essentially a reworked Cavalier. The only problem is it's a bit lacking on rear legroom.
It still seems to me, though, that Skoda do have a bit of an uphill struggle with their image and their credibility. Can they overcome this?
Well, I think they can. The smaller Felicia has already proved they can make a thoroughly modern small hatch. And Skoda do enjoy the best brand loyalty behind Mercedes. People keep coming back to Skodas. It's as simple as that. And if you've got that sort of brand loyalty, then you can certainly expand from there.
Now here we are on the TVR stand. Now TVR are one of the only companies that are actually doing anything new at this year's motor show. They've got 3 model launches. One of them is this baby, the V12, or the Beastie as the boys from Blackpool have decided to call it.
We're going to go racing. We've been doing some GT racing for a few years now, but although the car's recognised as handling really sweetly, we have always been short of horses, so never a company to do things in halves. We are building another new engine, which is a 7-litre V12, 660 brake horsepower, which should be enough to sort the others out. And then, of course, because there's a GT car, we are going to build versions for the road as well.
How many are you planning to sell on the road?
I mean, it's going to be over £100,000. It very much will be a racing car still, even if you can drive it on the road. But we've already been a little bit surprised in that we thought maybe we'd get 1 or 2 orders over the duration of the show. By 10 o'clock this morning, we had 3 deposits.
From looking at it, it really doesn't surprise me. You really are truly the biggest British car manufacturer, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of number of cars we build, yes, we are.
Those numbers at the moment?
We're just going up to 1,700 cars a year. That'll be 2,200 within 12 months' time.
That's pretty good. Who owns TVR?
One man, Peter Wheeler, lives in Blackpool, runs the company, races the cars, and owns it lock, stock and barrel.
Well, the man who's got an opinion on absolutely everything, Mike Rutherford, what does he think of TVR's new baby?
When you talk about the new baby, are you talking about the PR man? I think it's marvellous.
They do look very young.
He must be about 12. Lovely bloke, though. The new car, I mean, we've got to put this car into context. This really is the only genuinely new car at the British Motor Show. This is the only car that has really surprised people like you and I. We came here looking for a brand new car. This is it. V12, about 6-7 litre. You know, the ultimate muscle car, and it's a British car. It might cost 150 grand, but thank God there's a little company up in Blackpool, a sort of cottage industry company, that are bringing out something like this, and more power.
There's an awful lot of good things come out of the north of England, I must say that.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, I just wonder how much help a company like this gets from the British government, for example. The Department of Trade and Industry goes around the world trying to attract the Koreans and the Japanese to Britain. They actually hand out tens of millions of pounds to those companies. I'm not sure that TVR in Blackpool get too much state aid, and they should, because if we're not very, very careful, a company like this will find it difficult to survive, and you know, it'll be the same old story. A foreign competitor will come in, a predator almost, and snap it up, and it will become foreign owned. And we don't want this. We want this company to stay British, and I've got to say, they're doing a great job. This is Britain's largest truly British car manufacturer. Once this one goes, there's nothing left. And before everybody says, well, what about Aston Martin, what about Lotus, and what about Jaguar? They're all owned by foreign companies. This is a British-owned company, and it's owned by, you know, the archetypal English eccentric, and that's what we need.
So what do you reckon, Mike? Should we put our names down for a test drive then, or what?
Well, I think it's going to have to be a test drive because, you know, it's an expensive car, a very expensive car, 150 grand. Between us, we're never going to have 150 grand to spend on a car. So I would say, though, quite seriously, if anybody's doing the numbers this weekend and they're doing the lottery, the numbers to remember are 12 and 7, Project 12-7, because if you win the lottery, this is the car to spend your money on.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, I have my chequebook in one hand and my lottery ticket in the other. Fingers crossed, eh? We're going to take a break here on Granada Meadow Motors, but more from the NEC when we come back on 4 Wheels Good. Welcome back to a Four Wheels Good Motor Show special from the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. Everybody's got their favourite at the motor show, and I think our very own Ginny Buckley has found hers.
There are more cars here at the motor show than you could poke a stick at. And I'll tell you, this is one that really does grab me, the Fiat Barchetta. It's an absolute design delight. It's sleek, it's sporty. Fiat wanted to create a car that was fun to drive. Haven't driven one yet, but it certainly looks like it's going to fill those expectations.
If you look very closely at Barchetta, you can see quite a bit of Fiat heritage in the design, although it's very much a modern design and totally modern throughout. The styling has some nice retro elements, and it looks back as well as looks forward. So I think it has a reminder of Fiat's past as well as the future.
What about those rumours have been hearing plans to introduce a right-hand drive version? Because not everybody's comfortable, are they?
Well, this is true, but we are in a position to offer right-hand drive Alfa Romeo GTVs and Spiders, which of course are convertible, and we also offer right-hand drive Fiat Coupes as well. So we have plenty of sports cars in right-hand drive.
Just not the one I love.
But think how exclusive you're going to be.
This is design concept at its very best. You know, you can always trust the Europeans to make a car that you really want to get into and drive, can't you? It's sleek, sporty, and I'll tell you what, I'll see you in a few hours. The story about Birmingham this year really seems to me to be that there isn't much of a story at all now.
I think that, you know, there's a danger that we're a bit too close to the subject, and we have to remember this show is for the public. It's not for people like us that get in for free. It's for the punters who walk in and pay their money and wander around, and there's an awful lot to see. I have to say though, on the world stage, this is the most disappointing show I've been to for a year or two. I mean, this is an international motor show. And this competes with Paris and Turin and Tokyo and Seoul and you name it. Geneva is, of course, the other big one. And I've got to say that this show is flat compared to those, because if you go to all those shows, you'll see lots of new product. Here, there's very, very few things that we haven't seen before. It means that the public will see a lot of stuff they've never seen before, but all this stuff, bar one or two cars like the TVR, for example, was at Paris last week. And that disappoints me. And I think part of the reason for this, and I know I'm going to get hauled over the coals for saying this, but
you always get hauled over the coals.
I know, and I've got to say it again. I'm sorry to the people of Birmingham. You're very nice people. It's a nice little town, but it ain't the place for an international motor show. If this show was in London, if this show was on the world stage along with all the others, and it was the capital, then the show would be much more important. To be honest, it's not good enough to have an international motor show in a field on the outskirts of Birmingham in a series of barns, which is what the National Exhibition Centre is. I mean, it's not even in Birmingham. We're in the middle of a farm with these corrugated iron sheds. As far as product's concerned, well, you've got to go to the Chrysler stand. The Chrysler Prowler is just a fantastic hot rod for the road. Oh, just wonderful. I'm a big Jeep fan, and you know, if there was one stand I would go to, actually it would be the Chrysler stand. Interestingly, when you see the Chrysler GTS on that stand, which is their £66,000 muscle car, that came back from the Paris show last week. They had a few problems, and guess who brought that back for them? Me. And I got a speeding ticket on the way back, 95 quid.
And have they paid it for you?
They haven't. I've paid that out of my own pocket. That's a day's work for you. I'd also say to people, go to the Ford stand. The Ford car is very, very interesting. There's this ridiculous thing that the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders and the Coventry School of Art, or whatever they're called, forgive me if I don't know the correct title, but this is one of the top design schools in Britain. They've come up with this car for the future. It looks like a Portaloo or something. I mean, it's just ludicrous. It's a joke, and it shouldn't even be here because it's absolutely meaningless. There's another thing that looked like a cheese grater on wheels that I saw earlier on. There's an awful lot of dogs here, I have to say. But the main thing is there's a lot of product that you'll be able to see that will be going on sale in years to come, because there's a lot of product that won't go on sale until 97, 98. There's a lot of product that will be going in the showrooms as of now. So,
Mike, I'm going to cut you short now. There's a woman over there waving at you frantically. She's got a glass of champagne in one hand, a bag of freebies in the other, so I think it's time for him to go.
sleeping, 'cause there's a riot in the streets, hiding in the dark, waiting for the light of day. When they call out their warning, we can hear what they say, 'cause there's a riot in the streets. There's a riot in the streets. We've seen frontiers vanish overnight. Some have come down without a fight. The absolute power will soon be gone. If we have the strength to carry on, all the challenges of democracy. How will we be seen by history? 'Cause there's a riot in the streets, hiding in the dark, waiting for the light of day. When they call out their warning, we can hear what they say. Hell on earth is the price we gotta pay, 'cause there's a riot in the streets. There's a riot in the streets.
Welcome back. With today's increased traffic congestion, efficient navigation systems are high on the agenda of all manufacturers as an incentive to buy their vehicles in the future. We took a sneak preview of a prototype system that Ford have developed and of a mapping and navigation system that's just been launched by the RAC.
For a company like the RAC, it's crucial that they're ahead of the game in terms of technology. And here at the 96 Motor Show, they've just unveiled their latest navigation system. Neil Johnson, what can you tell us about it?
Well, today we've unveiled our CARS 2 system, which stands for Computer Aided Rescue System. And it really keeps us, I think, sort of 5 years ahead of the game, certainly world-leading technology. And what we're really striving to do is to enable our members and customers to receive service absolutely as fast as is humanly possible. And of course, technology is enabling us to make that quicker and quicker all the time. Fundamentally, the system is a combined call-taking and navigation system, a mapping system, which first of all enables us to identify who the member is from the telephone that they're calling from, if it's logged into our system, and already we have over 1.5 million numbers logged into our system. That's growing day by day as the system goes live. And then it enables, and that, by the way, happens, the search happens within 1 second. So
it's very instantaneous.
It's instantaneous, and our operator can answer the phone and actually be able to use the individual member's name as they answer the phone, because it's up on the screen in front of them. And then the mapping side of it enables us to identify very accurately where the member is broken down and get a patrol there in the fastest possible time.
In terms of financial commitment, how great is something like this navigation system?
Well, the base system that we put in about 7 years ago, we invested £40 million in 80s prices. The enhancements that have gone into the CARS 2 system are another 12 million or more. So we're getting on towards £60 million worth of investment so far in these systems.
So when you look at figures like that, it's sort of quite fair to say that the membership fee is very justified.
Well, we have to invest very serious sums of money these days to stay in the world-leading position. And I think our members want us to be world leaders. We are, and we intend to stay there.
One of the stars of the Ford stand at the NEC this year is without doubt the new Mondeo. Now, we've managed to drag it away from those awful arenas out onto the road to take a look at something rather special. From next year, Ford Mondeos will be available with in-car navigation. Chris, what's it all about? Is this the new accessory of the 90s and into the next century?
I think definitely it's going to be something that really revolutionises the way we use and think about our cars. With this system here, it knows where you are to start with. You tell it where you want to go using a computer keypad, and literally the friendly voice of the navigation system will tell you what to do at each and every junction as you come to it. And then there's a helpful diagram icon on the car radio as well to confirm where you need to go.
How does it work? How does it know where we are?
Right, it knows where we are using a network of satellites. There are 26 satellites, navigational satellites, circling the Earth, and it gets a fix from at least 4 of those satellites. So that tells it exactly where we are at the moment. It then has a CD with digital maps. It'll have digital maps of virtually the whole of the UK by the time it's launched. So that's how it uses to plan where we're going. And then it's got a compass in the back, and it's got monitors on each of the wheels, measure the distance that you've gone, to track your progress so far, and it can always refer back to the satellites just to double check its position.
So what kind of people are going to use this? You know, you're going to the shops on a Saturday morning, it's not really for you, is it? Where's your market?
No, the people who are going to find it most useful, I'm sure, are people who travel a lot on business, go to lots of different addresses. It's a cracking system if you're, for example, driving around a strange town. It can tell you, it's accurate enough to tell you as you come up to the road that you want to take, turn left here. So it's ideal if you're perhaps a rep visiting a business or making deliveries or something like that.
What kind of benefits to the driver? Less stress?
It obviously makes life rather easier for the driver. You're probably going to get there quicker because you don't get lost on the way. You may even save petrol because you're not driving round and round in circles.
Well, you'd need to save petrol to save money, because these things have been, around about £3,000, which is quite a lot just to make you get there 10 minutes quicker. What are you doing about price?
Well, the price is going to be considerably less than £3,000 because it'll be a factory-fitted option. It's probably going to be, price hasn't been announced yet, but we're looking at something like half that figure. And like every other piece of electrical equipment, I think you'll find that as the years roll on very quickly, the price comes into the reach of the ordinary family motorist.
So you really see that in 10-15 years time this will be a standard piece available?
Definitely, and it can be used in so many different ways. It could perhaps eventually involve information on traffic conditions and things like that, so it can actually help you plan your journey to avoid delays as well.
Have you been working with the RAC at all on this?
The RAC is one of the organisations who've actually been testing a slightly different version of this system. In the London area we've got 50 Ford Transits equipped with navigation systems which are being used by people like the RAC who are out on the road all the time. That's providing very valuable feedback to show us really how we can develop the system before it's formally launched.
Show me how it works, and please take me to the station.
Okay.
It's time to go home.
No problem. Right, we just need to start the computer off again, and using the keys here, enter destination. We've already entered. You can obviously choose a new destination by town and then by street, but we've actually input a number of destinations already in the memory, and we did think that you might fancy going home, so we've got the railway station as a second entry on there. So, start the route guidance.
Continue to follow the road.
Do what the lady says. Let's go.
So why is it a lady's voice?
We've tried a number of voices in terms both of giving clarity for people listening and also in terms of market research.
Roundabout at the next exit.
Wow, it's very specific.
It's very specific indeed, and we found that people like that woman's voice. Probably for other markets, a different voice is more appropriate.
What about a kind of user-friendly voice that you can alter depending on the mood that you're in?
That's not programmed into this system. We'll work on it for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Straight on after 150 yards.
One of its other advantages is if you either take a wrong turning or you need to take a different route, say there's a traffic jam on the road ahead, if you turn off, because it knows where you are using the satellites, it'll recalculate a route for you and give you a
roundabout at the next exit.
And give you a new route from your different position.
It must be quite a comforting thing for people that spend a lot of time in the car on their own. It's what it's a bit like having a friend, isn't it, really, for those sad people who never get to go home very often.
Yes, I've had very many interesting conversations with it.
Now you know you're at the end of a long day when you start talking to your navigation system.
It's worse when it starts answering back.
You will arrive at your destination after 150 yards.
Chris, we're nearly there yet.
We're very nearly there. Just wait for the machine to tell you.
You have reached your destination.
Wonderful. I'll tell you what, it beats driving with the A to Z in one hand and one eye on the road. Thank you for the lift. See you soon. So there you have it, the all-new Mondeo, complete with navigation system. Well, it's certainly got me where I want to go. See you next week.
Well, that's all from us this week on 4 Wheels Good. More from Ginny, Mike and Stirling at the NEC next week. We'll see you then.